Hello. I'm looking very Canadian today. But anyway, hi, I'm Eden, and we're doing a little bit different of a video today. I am a podcaster, crafter. I own Kraken Maid. There'll be links to the shop below where I sell progress keepers and my own design patterns and yarn. Today we will be specifically looking at progress keepers, and even more specifically, hoggles. Hoggles is something that I came up with in the early days of my business, and it is progress keepers made out of broken jewelry or just thrifted jewelry in general that I found at thrift stores, and just to give them a second chance, because there are a lot of jewelry that ends up in landfills because they're broken or they're just not their thing anymore, and it's too cheap to sell at a grocery store. It's not made out of solid like jewelry, typical jewelry metals or ore, and some of those things can be really bad for the earth. They can have chemicals that contain toxins that, number one, shouldn't be on a human body, but number two, should not be in the earth. So what I do is I go and I collect these broken pieces of jewelry from thrift stores and give them a second chance in a progress keeper, whether that's using, say, a single earring and just putting a little lobster clasp on it to just give it a new life, or it's say a necklace that has some really pretty just little crystals in it. I can use that in my polymer clay charms. Specifically, you can see like my Kraken charm that holds a little jewel. All those little crystals are thrifted jewelry. So it's a little way of just doing a little bit to help with just being eco-friendly with something. So I want to take you on a little adventure to show you how you can find certain things for making progress keepers of your own and doing a little bit for the earth. Whew, a little winded. So today we're going to go on a little trip to the thrift store, and I'll do my best to film as much as I can without getting awkward. But yeah, but before we go to the thrift store, I want to talk about some certain things that you want to look for when you go to the thrift store. And I have some examples here that I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what specifically I look for in a thrift store before we head over there. You can use these as guidelines, or you can just find things yourself and kind of mix it up. But these are the things that I look for when I go to the thrift store, starting with wooden beads. I hand paint these wooden beads. I've got some opals here that will be awesome for painting, or I've got these flat ones. It is totally okay if they're a little varnished. You can sand those down with a piece of sandpaper or a Dremel, or you can just leave them as is and have a really pretty wooden bead. I won't be using these guys because they're just way too big. Make sure that you're looking for something that isn't huge. My basis is you don't want it any bigger than a quarter. Sometimes you can have quarter size. Those are pretty big for a progress keeper, but somewhere below that, because you don't want it tugging at your stitches and give you kind of a bigger stitch when using in knitting or crocheting. You don't want it to pull and you don't want it to be heavy. So wooden beads are okay to have a slightly bigger because they are a lighter material. Right. Next up is single earrings. Sometimes I get double earrings. Most of the time I take the double earrings and I wear them for myself because that's just, I love thrifted earrings. But single earrings, you can get hanging ones, such as, let's see what we got here. This guy, make a beautiful progress keeper. You just remove the piece that goes into your ear, the hook, and just put a lobster clasp on it. Some of these I will separate, like this guy. Would be very cool if I just separated the beads that are in it and put it on progress keeper. And studs you can do too, but you do need a round-headed beading tool so that you can loop those around into something that you can put a jump ring into. And some of these, I don't know how to tell the metals apart, but some metals will just break because they are well set. I don't know like the words for metalwork, but they've been well set, well heated. And some of these are very soft and will turn easily. Don't worry about if it's very soft, because Progress Keeper, especially a stud, it's not going to be through a lot of really rough housing, so it's not going to warp out of way or break. So that's my little container of studs and dangly earrings. And next thing, one of my favorite things to look for is brooches. Mainly these kinds of brooches that contain crystals in them. This whole butterfly, it doesn't have his back anymore. Brooches are probably the most broken things that nobody really takes anymore, because nobody wears brooches that often anymore, which is sad. So by taking these and giving them a new life, one, I can take these metals and get them out of landfills, and I will definitely be able to do something with them. I'll probably give them to my brother, who likes to mess around with metals, but I take the crystals out of here. Specifically, when you're getting these, you're looking a lot for crystals that are set in, okay, like this necklace. I'll never find a chance to use it. It's missing some crystals, which is sad because it's so pretty. But you want to look for those crystals that, I don't know if I'll be able to get this on camera. Come on. They are set with metal holding them in, which means that they're probably 99% sure they're usually glass. And glass is what I'm looking for. So I'm keeping an eye out for the little crystals held in by metal coverings. Sometimes, like this guy, these are glass too, but they're not being held in. They're held in with some glue, but easily popped out. They've got a little bit of a covering on them too, so that's a good sign that they're glass. Plastic beads, again, I think I've said this before. Plastic beads are still great. I still collect them, specifically on the piece of jewelry that I find, oh, I could use that in this. If I have an idea, I will take them and I will use them in Progress Keepers, but I'm not going hunting for plastics because they don't quite work with polymer clay, which technically polymer clay is a plastic-based thing itself. It's just a little bit more work to use them because you can't bake the plastic crystals, but you can use them. And yeah, I think that's it. Those are the three things that I look for the most when I go into a thrift store. I also like looking for bags of randoms. Our local thrift store here puts together bags of just broken up random jewelry that it can't be sold on its own, so you can get pretty good deal for a big old bag of jewelry. I've bought quite a few of them, and so keep an eye out for something like that, or just go in looking for maybe a necklace of some kind that has a lot of pieces to it. Bracelets can sometimes be really good, or just buy random bits of earrings. Okay, I think we're ready to go to the thrift store. You ready? Okay, let's go. Okay, so here is the big old bunch of loot I got. Now, some thoughts I had while I was searching for this stuff. I was looking for some dangly stuff that were super easy to make into a Progress Keeper, like this bracelet with some resin beads in there. And then I also got some pretty cool earrings. This is plastic beads, but that is totally okay. I'll still use it for sure because they're so pretty. And I got, okay, this is a broken necklace that has both plastic and like plastic crystals and plastic pearls, but those are always awesome. This is a simple bracelet that I thought the beads were really cute, and I'll use those in something. I had actually gone on this trip and I found one of these earrings in a different trip, so today I found its pair and I will be wearing those all the time because they're beautiful. And then we got a bunch of brooches that are always like the best things to find. That one's really pretty. I like that one. it's kind of a mess at the moment, but this guy will be great. I'm also going to cut those strands of little beads to use in embroidery or progress keepers. This is a very interesting earring. It's all plastic. I don't know if I'll be able to use it, but we shall see. That one's really pretty. I think I'm going to keep that whole, turn it into a Christmas ornament. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff from one bag. My thrift store does throw everything into one bag sometimes. They are awesome little bunches. It's probably rarer in other thrift stores, but you'll have more luck in more of the hometown thrift stores instead of big ones. That's a good earring stud. It'll make a great progress keeper. I think we'll use that one as an example. But yeah. So we're going to start with our stud earring progress keeper. We're going to need our round tool, the earring, some fixings, like a lobster clasp and a jump hoop. So I'm going to trim this guy because he's a little long. So I'm going to use my wire cutters. If you don't have wire cutters, you can get away with just using a knife, but you will damage your knife. And we're going to just turn that around the smaller section of your pliers all the way down to the bottom. To kind of clean it up, I'm going to go at its base. I'm going to pull it in the opposite direction so that it sits a little straighter up. And you can use your round tool head. It's a little tricky. I do it sometimes. To close up that gap to make sure that your little loop isn't going to come out on it. This one was super stubborn, so I just used my flathead pliers to give it just a tiny little squeeze. Usually you can buy your wire tools in groups of 3, so all these tools could be in a set for you. So now we're just going to attach our fixings on there with our jump ring. It's a little difficult sometimes, but that's okay. Then put our lobster clasp on there. And it's good to keep all the metals matching. So if you're going to use, say, a gold earring stud, try and go with gold fixings. But this one was silver, so it worked out perfectly. And it looks really cute. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I use the little crystals in jewelry, like this brooch I'm going to use as an example, along with this little earring that is missing some crystals in it. And you're going to need polymer clay as your base. I'm just going to put it into a little rose. And oh yeah, you also need your little pokey tool that will help you pry it out of the brooch or earring. So I'm going to use my little pokey tool. Please, please, please be careful. Don't follow my example exactly because I've poked myself several times. It can be a little dangerous. If you want a tutorial on how to do a rose, I would be happy to do that. Just comment down below if you'd like to see that. So I got one out. I'm going to use that as my main one. Then I'm going to get a couple out of the other one. That's just a little bit extras. This one was pretty tricky because these are glass crystals and are embedded a little bit more because they have the little bumpies on there. I had to go off camera to do it, I believe, because it took me a little bit. But what you're going to aim to do is you're just going to get your little pokey tool under those little arms, the metal arms that are holding the crystal. Try and pry them up, and then you get under the crystal and it should pop right out. Yep, still trying. Still here. Voiceovering, watching me struggle. So while I'm trying to get this done, I will say that, yeah, this took me a while. But as I was saying before, my thrift store is pretty special and will do groups of jewelry like this. Most of the time you'll have to hunt for single pieces of jewelry, and that is completely okay. You'll probably have more luck in the hometown thrift stores that are smaller than, say, Value Village or Goodwill. Maybe Salvation Army would be okay, because the bigger thrift stores actually go through their stuff and will throw out broken jewelry or other stuff that just isn't sellable. So if you want to get that kind of broken jewelry and make it all brand new, go for a smaller store. So I'm just going to shove this into the middle of the rose as its little bloom. I'm going to make the rose a little bit bigger because it was a big crystal, but I think it looks really pretty in there. So they are very tricky to maneuver sometimes. So I'm just going to add some extra petals, and it's pretty easy to just make a petal by squishing it. Put that on there. Here we go. And then we will just attach fixings like a normal polymer clay progress keeper. And yeah, here are our finished hoggles made out of recycled jewelry, pretty much. It's a great way to help the environment and a cool way to just make very unique stuff. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!